Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is for my fellow nurses. So are you a nurse and you're burnt out from the traditional bedside nursing, or you are just like a curious person like I am and you just want to know about the alternative career paths for nurses in the UK? Then this video is for you. So in today's video I'll be talking about at least 7 non-bedside nursing roles that are actually available in the UK that you might not have heard of, or you have heard of them but you just don't know so much about them. But I'll go into details in this video. So some of these roles that I'll be talking about today not only offer competitive salaries, a lot of them also allow flexible working arrangements. So yeah, let's get started. So the first one on today's list is one that I came across, or I heard of, about, I would say, 6 months ago, or maybe even less. So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine that lives in America, and she also used to be a theater nurse, and we just got talking because she moved from theater nursing, she transitioned from theater nursing into lecturing. So she's now like a nurse lecturer. Obviously she lives in America. So we got talking and I was like, oh, did you have to have a pay cut or a pay rise now that you've transitioned from theaters to the university? And I remember her saying I think she's had to have a pay cut. And so I was like, oh, so how are you managing financially? Again, she's my very good friend, and we're just chatting. And so she did mention to me that she does forensic nursing on the side. She would do on calls, maybe weekends, as a forensic nurse, So I became so inquisitive and I was asking questions. Anyways, after the conversation I decided to go online, and that brings me to the first role I'll be talking about, and that is the forensic nurse examiner. Again, with this role, it is called several names. So some may call it sexual assault nurse examiner, because when I went online and I was reading about this, it is called several names, across different countries, and even in the same country, in the UK, it is also called different names. So when you're looking up this role, you could type forensic nurse examiner, forensic nurse. You could type sexual assault nurse or sexual assault nurse examiner. So just type in different keywords and you should find information about this role. But what I know from what obviously my friend told me and from my research about this role, it is very interesting. But you need to be someone who is emotionally sound and mentally sound as well, even emotionally intelligent to function well in this role, because you will be dealing with a lot of people who have been assaulted, pretty much people who have just experienced sexual assault, rape and all of that. And you would have to collect evidence. You would also provide emotional support, and you kind of provide holistic care for someone who has been sexually assaulted, and of course you take samples, evidence, really you collect evidence. So I feel it could be an emotionally demanding role. It might not be physically challenging, but emotionally, because you need to offer so much emotional support for your patients. And for me, because I'm very emotional, and I don't think, because I became so curious about this role that I even went online to look for organizations or healthcare companies or whatever that actually employ forensic nurses. And I think I actually I did contact one of them just to see if I could do this during the weekend, or I do 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. So I was looking at maybe doing this on the weekend, or maybe just doing a day in a month, maybe 1 day in a month or 2 days in a month, maybe an agency role. I thought of doing that, but again, after having a second thought, I just thought, what, if I pick up this kind of job, I will literally cry every day on the job, because I am very emotional, and knowing that someone has been assaulted will bring tears to my eyes, will bring tears to my face, and it will make me devastated. So I decided not to pursue the job. But they did reply my email saying, oh, but I just told them that for now I was no longer interested, and yeah, I just wasn't ready for that. But if you're emotionally strong, I feel a lot of mental health nurses would do well as forensic nurse examiners, because you're already used to working with people that have been not just assaulted, people that are people going through a lot of trauma as well. So mental health nurses, you need to look out for this role. It is, like, from what I've read, this is very interesting. You also need to be very spontaneous as well, especially if it is something you'll be doing like on an on-call basis, or like say like a bank basis or whatever. Like if it's not like your primary role, and if you just want this to be like a part-time role for you, or like an add-on to your primary role, I feel like you have to be very flexible, because from what I've read and what my friend actually told me, like as soon as you're called, you really need to like get into your car and drive up to the venue, like where you collect the samples, like the evidence. So you have to be very flexible. I also think that for this role you would need to have a car, so you need to like drive, because you need to drive. And yeah, more like on call. Like if you're a theater nurse, you probably know this already. Like if you're on call, and like when I used to be a theater nurse in my trust, even though you're on call, you'll be in your house really, but as soon as you're called, you have to be in the hospital. I think within 30 minutes of being called, you have to be in the hospital. So I want to believe it to be the same for this job as well. As soon as you're called, they'll give you a time frame, but I know generally it could be 30 minutes. You have to be at the venue of the assault or wherever it is that you collect the evidence. So that's that about this job. Oh, I should also say that when I was looking at the salary for this role, it does, I mean, it does look to be lucrative, to be honest, anyways, by UK standard. Okay, so I think the rate is between maybe 42k to 45k per year, but you also know if you work in the NHS, it is a banding system, so based on your band. But I think if you work with the private, you should be looking at between, I would just say not less than 35k per year. Again, this is based on different organizations and what they would love to offer, and if you've also got experience in that field. So you know, a lot of other factors would determine how much you'll be paid. So let's leave that, but it is something that I'm so excited about, and I just wish I could do it, but I'm too emotional to do this kind of, you know, job. Like I'll pretty much cry every time I take samples, you know, evidence from people that have been assaulted, from victims of, you know, sexual assault. So yeah, that's number one. So number two is the telehealth role. This is very popular in America, and it's so funny because even before I moved to the UK, I used to, like, I don't know, I met a lady, like she is a nurse in America, and we just got talking on the internet, maybe on Instagram. I honestly cannot remember. Like this was like several years ago. I think I was even fresh out of, you know, nursing school, like a very long time ago. And I remember vividly that at that time she did mention to me that she was a telehealth nurse, and I was asking her like what do you do, and she told me she was working remotely then, guys, like a very long time ago. And I mean, if you're a nurse, you probably know that in America, like the telehealth role is like very popular. It is not like it's very popular, people know about it, but I think in the UK it is not so popular, because I feel like in the UK we're more like, we have this conservative approach to everything, including nursing, and we are more like traditional, so to say. But with the rise in, you know, digital healthcare, I have realized that the telehealth nurse role is beginning to like come up a lot. Like if you type it on Google, you find so many job opportunities. But the ones I've found, again, this is just the ones I've found. You could search and you might find something different. But the roles or the positions that I have actually found, they do require you to be an advanced clinical practitioner, like an ACP really, or an advanced nurse practitioner as some say. So, and that's because you'll be like consulting patients like virtually. So that's pretty much why it's called telehealth nursing, or telehealth nurse role, or telehealth nursing. You would have to like consult patients virtually. It could be via video calls, you know, audio calls, you know, whatever means, but virtually. You would have to do consultations, you know, virtually. So that's why it's actually called telehealth. It's not because you just be sat at home. You would still pretty much consult patients, do prescriptions if you have, you know, the qualification, like if you have the NMP qualification. Obviously, if you are like an advanced clinical practitioner, you definitely have the prescribing qualification, so you will do all the prescriptions, everything virtually, and that's why it is actually called telehealth nursing job. And I also think that's why a lot of employers in the UK would want someone that already has the ACP qualification. So you're already like an advanced clinical practitioner, and you already have experience in the traditional role, because it will be easier for you to now like transition smoothly into the telehealth role, because you're already doing this face to face with the patient anyway, so it's something you could just do remotely in this instance. So when I was doing my research, I've realized the range is between say like 35k to 45k per year. Again, as you know, that salaries in the UK are not like so encouraging, but yeah, it's something like, I mean, it's worth having a look if you would want, you know, to work remotely as an ACP, as an advanced clinical practitioner. The next is the nurse educator. I know that I've mentioned this in a lot of my videos, and that's because I am personally keen on this job. I love being a nurse educator, and so if you're very passionate about impacting the next generation of nurses, then this is something you could also consider. As a nurse educator, you could work in, say, the hospital, and you could work in universities as well. So again, yeah, that reminds me, I am planning to make a video talking about the clinical academic career pathway for nurses in the UK. It is something that my trust is currently, like, they're very big on that, and they're working towards helping nurses to be able to achieve both. Like, you're able to like maintain your clinical skills, work in the clinical area, have your clinical job, and still you know be a nurse educator or be a researcher, like an academic researcher, a tutor, a lecturer, pretty much have the best of both worlds, because I think they realize that nurses always have to choose, like you pretty much have to choose, you know, either being an educator or a clinician, but they are now like providing a pathway where you can actually merge both. It does mean that you would have to like advance your knowledge on both sides, which is very demanding, but it is doable. So I don't know if other trusts are beginning to do that, but I've read a bit, and I think some trusts are beginning to like embed this into like their own design as well. But it's something worth looking at as well, but I'll make a video specifically for that. So as a nurse educator, you will be required to do a lot of things like designing curriculums, obviously teaching, supervising, mentoring students as well. So it's something you could, you know, just look out for. Again, if you don't want to work in the university or in a school, you could actually work in the NHS as a nurse educator. We call them PEF, like practice education facilitator, or practice educator, like we have different names, but it's something worth considering. Now if you work in the NHS, again, banding system, right, like agenda for change, so you already know it's based on the band. But if you work in the university, you may, I mean, the starting salary is maybe, I mean, if you have so much experience, you could maybe find a job that could start you from like 35k per year. But yeah, it is not so lucrative, but if it's something you're passionate about, you would definitely find it interesting and fulfilling. Really, you find it fulfilling. If you love to teach and you love to like share knowledge, impact people, you will find this very inspiring and yeah, fulfilling. The fourth on my list is the project management nurse. I also think I must have mentioned this in a couple of my videos, and this is something that I really wish a lot of nurses would explore. The job advert may not necessarily say project management nurse, like it may not necessarily say that, but if you go through the job description, it will pretty much like explain that they need a project manager who is a nurse. So in this kind of role, you would like be responsible for overseeing a lot of projects. Sometimes I feel like research nurses are actually project managers, like we do manage a lot of projects, like portfolios now. So anyways, if you want to be a good project manager, a project management nurse, guys, I'm just giving it a name, but you know what I mean. So if you want to like succeed in this role as a project management nurse, something that I've learned is you need to have like a strong organizational and leadership skill, like in fact skills actually, not just one. So you need those leadership skills, you need those organizational skills, because you will need them if you want to succeed as a project management, especially as a nurse. And this is very good for so I know a few people that actually like work in this role, and I think I remember one of them actually has a master's in healthcare management, and that is very good because that has actually helped her to succeed in this role. I also know someone who works as a project manager, obviously a nurse, and she has like the Prince 2 certification. So consider, if this is something you're very keen, you know, to achieve, go on to register for a Prince 2 certification, or just type on Google project management courses or certifications. A lot of them will pop up, but I think Prince 2 is like the popular one. You could also consider maybe a master's in healthcare management. You could even consider a master's in project management. Again, there are several certifications you could do, and you might obviously consider a master's in project management, but it is very lucrative. One of the people that I know that actually works as a project manager in the NHS, obviously as a nurse, she is like a band 8 now, and yeah, so if you go online to check band 8 salaries, like she earns over 50k per year. So it's something that you may want to consider, really. And it is like, if you like fast-paced project, like you like supervising, handling projects, sorting things out, organizing things, then this is something you may consider. It does require you to have like additional certifications like a master's, but again, do your research, and if this is something you like, you will find plenty of opportunities in the NHS as a project manager. Trust me, I have found a lot of them. So yeah, this is something worth considering. So the next one on my list, which is number 5, is a remote telephone triage nurse. I know it's a mouthful, but in my trust we actually call them hotline nurses, but I know other trusts actually call them, some call them telephone triage nurse, different names. But for the purpose of this video, let us just stick to a remote telephone triage nurse, or a telephone triage nurse. And I really love this role. Again, like I said, in my trust we call nurses in this specialty, so to say, we call them hotline nurses, and what they do is pretty much what I've just said, triage. So they triage patients over the phone. So when patients ring the hospital to say, oh, I've got a cold, I've got diarrhea, I'm just saying now, like I've got a cough, I've got this, I've got that, they then assess the patient quickly over the phone and determine whether the patient needs to come into the hospital, or the patient needs to go to the nearest A&E, like accident and emergency, or the patient just needs to like see their GP, or the patient needs to go to urgent care, or we need to arrange an ambulance to pick up the patient at home. So they decide what like the best option for that patient right now. And I also know that it is very flexible. They allow working from home, like flexi working. Sometimes you need to be in the hospital, sometimes you could work from home. They would give you like proper equipment for you to work from home, like the software is needed, the phone, the computer, like whatever it is needed for that job, they will provide for you for days that you'll be working from home. So it is like very flexible, and it is also like very fast paced, because you tend to receive many phone calls and you really need to make like quick decisions, and not just quick decisions but almost accurate decisions as to what's best for the patient. And something I've also realized for this particular role, nurses that have a lot of clinical skills, so nurses that have got so much experience as bedside nurses, they'll fit really well into this role, because you need a lot of not just clinical skills, you also need a lot of clinical decision making skills to succeed in this role. And I know for sure that nurses that have worked for so long, on the wards or on the bedside, in the clinical area, they are best suited for this role, because that clinical judgment, they've got it, they can make sound clinical decisions. And yeah, so this is something you should consider if you are a bedside nurse, a ward nurse, and you are looking at transitioning into a more flexible nursing role. This is worth considering. So the next on my list, which is number 6, is the nurse informaticist role. I needed to say that very slowly. So as a nurse informaticist, you are more like a tech nurse, so to say. Yeah, so I know a few nurses that had to like study nursing informatics to equip them with the skills necessary for this job. Some have done certain certifications, but again, it's more like a tech nurse role. You do a lot of analyzing of patient data. In my trust, we call them like digital nurses, and they do tend to like they work with a lot of our softwares, like the electronic medical records, like a lot of our softwares that we use for medical records and all of that. They do work on that. They also analyze data, like I said earlier. So yeah, if you think of a nurse informaticist, just think of a tech nurse. And like I said, some call them digital nurses, so they have like different names really. But yeah, it is also something that is very interesting, especially if you've got like a knack for IT. Like if you're like the IT nurse, like you just have a soft spot for tech, this is something that you should consider. Again, like I said, you may want to like just maybe go for a master's in in health informatics, and you may just decide to like acquire a few certifications to help you transition smoothly into the tech world as a nurse. I know that the salaries are very competitive for, you know, a digital nurse or a tech nurse or a nurse informaticist, and I know generally you should be able to earn between 45 to 50k per year. Again, this is based on experience, you know, how much experience you've got, and even sometimes your qualifications. But yeah, it's something worth, you know, considering as well if you have a knack for technology. So the last one for this video is the aesthetic nurse, and I know that they are also called like cosmetic nurses. So you could hear like some employers will call them like aesthetic nurse, some call them cosmetic nurse, but it's pretty much the same. And so they actually do perform a lot of non-surgical cosmetic procedures like dermal fillers, Botox, you know, laser treatment and all of that. It is always like on a non-surgical basis because they are not qualified to like perform surgeries. And I know they do tend to like have to like go through certain trainings to, you know, to learn how to do, you know, those non-surgical procedures. It is very lucrative, especially in London, guys. I used to live in Essex, and I used to do a lot of agency roles or agency jobs in London, particularly private hospitals. And a lot of these hospitals where I used to like do agency shifts were not just private hospitals, but they tend to do a lot of plastic operations, and I used to scrub for a lot of plastic surgeries. So I kind of know what it means to be like a cosmetic nurse from a theater nurse point of view. But it is something very lucrative. Some of them work in private hospitals. Again, like I've met a few of them when I was doing agency shifts in London, in those private hospitals that did plastic surgeries, that, you know, so a lot of them do work in private hospitals. But you could actually even earn more if you have your own business. So what I've also seen is that some of them, if not a lot of them, actually would prefer having their own businesses. So they would have their own clinic really where they can do these non-surgical procedures. Again, they're highly trained. And I also know that industry could be a bit tricky because you could have some quacks, but I know nurses, cosmetic nurses, that's what they're nurses first of all before going into, you know, aesthetics and all of that. So they are highly trained nurses in this, you know, particular specialty, and they do earn a lot of money if they start their own business or they start their own clinic. But again, if they decide to work, you know, under someone, say in a private hospital, they still earn a lot. I know a few of them that earn about 50k per year. But like I said, they tend to make a lot of money, like much more than 50k per year, if they have like their own, if they open their own clinic and have their own like portfolio of patients. So there you have it, guys, 7 exciting non-bedside nursing roles. And like I said, these roles offer competitive salaries, they offer flexibility, they offer change of pace. And that's because for some people, all they just want is like a change of pace, a change of environment. They just want to acquire new knowledge. So it's not necessarily because they hate the bedside thing. They just want something new for themselves. Like, so if that is what you want something new for yourself, or even want the money, or you want the experience, or you want the flexibility, or you want new knowledge, you just want a change of environment, a change of, you know, workplace maybe, then you could consider one of the 7 flexible nursing roles that I've mentioned. They are very exciting. Again, I know I've said 7, but again, I will still pitch in my role, and it's the clinical research nurse role. So it's something worth considering as well. It does offer a lot of flexibility if that is something you want. Yeah, because I needed to pitch that in because we do want, you know, we want nurses to actually look into becoming clinical research nurses, and there needs to be a lot of publicity about this. So yeah, I had to pitch that. So do let me know, which of these roles do you think you would want to like consider? Which of them actually interests you? Do let me know in the comment section. Let me know which one you like, or which one you've considered, or which one you've heard of, or if you've never heard of any of them. Also let me know in the comment section if this is the first time you would actually hear of any of these roles. Let me know in the comments. Let me just know your thoughts. If you have questions, if you want me to share more of this, you know, exceptional, not, you know, unpopular as well, so exceptional, unpopular flexible nursing roles. Do let me know in the comments if you want me to share more of this. And thank you so much, guys, for watching. It's been my absolute pleasure. Like, I really do love like filming this kind of videos. Like, it gives me so much joy, and I am so happy that I've got lovely people who you know, they try their best like engage my videos, like, share and watch, and obviously leaving a comment is also something I love. And I do appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video. Bye guys, bye.